Okay, it's going.
Cool.
Action.
My name is Spence and I am trouble. That's my name and occupation. Boy. I've been waiting for this moment since I was 7. And when I was a young boy, as an autistic kid who had a very high intelligence, and to give you an impression of that, only one person in this room is actually going to know what it means. And that is an if you have studied the data analytics behind Mensa test scores.
I haven't.
So Mensa scores up to 120, and they're very similar in that way to like the SATs, where there's like a minimum that you can't get below because people at that point just have to not answer anything. I scored a 105, which puts me way up there. That puts me above 98 percentile, which is the level that you need to get into Mensa. Mensa is a social organization meant to help people who are busy thinking about other things than people, than interacting, than just the very carefree nature of accepting the people around you, behaving the way they're supposed to, because you are just an animal on a rock going about your business. And the people in Mensa spend their time covetously accumulating knowledge about whatever it is that they have whims for. And there are really fantastic people within the organization who love very deeply so many very obtuse things. And I don't mean that in a stigma. What I mean that in specifically is that if you were going to look at it, it is slightly a larger angle than what you might expect. And the thing is that at a 105, I am tested at that benchmark. Let's say I got a couple of lucky guesses at above a 99 percentile. Okay, so I'm pushing up, and on a bell curve, that means that you need several tens of thousands of other white men in America in order to find another one who is as fast as I am, because that is what IQ is. IQ is not that you are better, that you have more magic or anything like that. It is just that you are quicker. It's like being Usain Bolt, or maybe a kid who might go for nationals.
Or it's an ability to test well.
Sometimes, but a lot of times test writers have to figure out that specific nuance. So when you take a test, for somebody who is autistic, something like the SATs is a backbreaker because they ask you about reading comprehension, and reading comprehension doesn't have anything to do with fucking words. It has to do with context. And so when you are already struggling with context, something like that might bite your time that you might make up because you were quick with math. But there is research that shows that people who have autism are not specifically guaranteed to be genius level IQs. And we see that because there are a lot of them who don't figure things out even to the breadth of surviving. It is a thing they need. They don't even try for it. And so they cannot even answer their own question that, oh no, like this becomes very important. Well, I gave myself a challenge which sort of breaks the game. I gave myself half the time to do the test. And if it's a matter of speed, I still scored a 105 in approximately half the time for each of the sections. And I put my pencil down, I looked at the clock, and I sat back and relaxed because I had horrible test anxiety. And this is how I knew that I was going to wind up being able to get through it and survive it. To give you a comparison, at the same time that I did the Mensa entrance exam, I also took the Wonderlic test. They give you 2 tests to help give you some level of comparison in case you were not good with one of the tests. And the Wonderlic test is used in the NFL. It is 50 questions in 3 categories, science, math, or English, where you must solve a simple logic puzzle where all the questions are built exactly the same, but they have a paragraph of directions for each one of them. As an autistic person, I read the directions and it said, please read the directions for every single one of these questions and then answer the question to the best of your ability. And I got something like a 13, which is arguably not genius level IQ. It maths out to double the score plus 60, I think. So I looked at that and I was like, wow, I got like 17 questions answered because I read the directions for every single one of them before I answered. Man, why did they write so much directions? There were so many directions. If only they had explained that every single question was built the same, unlike the SATs, where you don't know what the fuck is coming. And in the Mensa entrance exam, you also can pretty much guarantee that you have no idea what's coming. And that's part of the name of the game, so that people won't cheat, right? Because cheaters will. And it's kind of arguably funny, because if you're cheating to get into Mensa, you might be surprised about what you find at the other end of that. But my first interaction with somebody who was negatively associated was actually my former brother-in-law. And I'm not going to name names, Joe. But essentially, we were at a dinner with my family playing cards, and he said something, and I was like, I'm going to put up a defense on this one, no. And he was like, no, I know what I'm talking about. It's this thing. And it was just, could I remember what the topic was? The answer is no. But we behaved in such a way, arguing about this unimportant topic, so aggressively that it ruined the card game. And he wasn't paying attention to the social situation, as all the family members got up and literally went to watch TV because they couldn't fucking deal with us. And that's never happened before. So the funny thing about it was that he was like, I think I was, I don't remember how old I was. He wasn't yet my sister's husband. He was still her boyfriend, which is a few years before that. But I had joined Mensa and then dropped out because I didn't find anybody to drink with. I mean, that's what it came down to. Was I was like, who wants to go out for beers after this dinner? And everybody was like, no, it's time for bed. And I was like, I'm gonna just go to a bar by myself. It's cool. I'm so glad I paid $80 for a whole year of this. Well, so he made the point that I was wrong because I could not keep up with his logic. He was just too good at this, and that I needed to go back and read a bunch that he hadn't read. And I was like, how do you even know, man? Like, how do you even know I'm not smart as you? Like, that's kind of a fucking dig, because that's you getting out of the logic game, where I'm like, we actually do need to go check the internet. We do actually need to fact check this in order to settle it, because I'm willing to admit at this point, because everybody's fucking got up and left, that I don't care enough, and I would go check the internet so that you can fucking win. That's my give. Please take it. And he was like, no. Here's my Mensa card. I'm in Mensa. You can't keep up. You lose. And I was like, this bitch. So I went to the basement where I had a bunch of my really important documents that I'm pretty sure that I don't even remember what any of it is, but I had my acceptance letter, and I came back up. And I knew from having to survive as an autistic person to pay attention to people who were uncomfortable, as you all are right now. And what I realized was that we fucked up. We fucked the moment, because no one wanted to play games anymore, and people didn't have as much fun watching TV as they did playing the games, and it was better socially for them to play games than it was for them to watch TV together, because you know who's important when you're watching TV, not you. So I slapped my thing on the table, and I was like, that's a dick joke. I put my letter on the table, and I was like, dude, shut the fuck up, go in there and hang out with the family. I don't give a shit about how smart you are, because being in Mensa doesn't actually mean that you're any more correct than anybody else, especially when we could just go look it the fuck up. So we're done. You're not smarter than me, whatever that means, and this isn't a win for you. And he never forgave me. We never were cool. And it's too bad, because I like drinking a lot, and I really needed somebody to drink with.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to that. Yes.
So I told people that I was going to talk about black people tonight, and I'm going to make you all very uncomfortable, but I need another drink before that.
Can't wait to hear that.
Excuse me, sir, what?
Excuse me, sir, what? I'm sorry, could you repeat that for the class? I'm trying to read you about your car 6 warranty. Nostril flare. So, in this strange life that I have led, I have been waiting for this moment because I have had to make very deliberate choices with my intelligence, because one of the first things that I was taught as a child was that the rules don't apply to me. And I don't mean that, no, I said that backwards. The rules don't apply to neurotypicals. When you are autistic, if you are told to be good, you try to obey the rules. That is essentially the equivalent of hearing stories about witches in the woods and not going and wandering off so that you don't break your leg and die of starvation trapped underneath a tree and your parents can't find you because you are, a colonizer. And the premise of what I tried to understand was that these rules that I started seeing everybody breaking all the time wasn't that they were breaking rules, it was that the context for them shifted. Now, 500 years ago, they fought for facts. 1,000 years ago, they fought for facts. 1,500 years ago, they fought for facts. 2,000 years ago, the Greek scholars fought for facts. What I have learned from watching shifting context as people apply rules to themselves and other people is that Black people in America are specifically taught that they have a different context under which they must live than white people. Hispanic people, Jewish people, people from anywhere else on the earth are taught that this context of be good by these rules and you will do well is the American dream. But the reality of the nature of context is that it is a key to unlocking a series of events. If you have the right context at the right time, you can unlock it for yourself. And white privilege is literally having the context handed to you so that you can open the door when other people are told that the door exists and a key exists, but not told how to make the key. And the best context that I can give to elaborate on that point is that after learning as much as I could about the lifestyle that I was raised in, which was religious background, white, Protestant, from the Midwest, we were middle class because we had doors opened for us. We had education that we were offered that was taken advantage of, and our family did, in fact, stick to the road and achieve what was on the other end, which was stable lifestyle. And I was taught that if I behaved, I would have that stable lifestyle too. But the more I behaved well, the more it unraveled, because even though I was obeying the rules, the fact that I kept sticking to them over and over and over again was so disruptive for other people that I became a lightning rod for identifying darkness and dragging what was there into the light for other people to see. And so many of the jobs that I've worked, I have been a pariah. And people would see me and they would be like, wow, you are just the nicest guy. You're just nice to everybody. You just fucking believe in people. You have so much charisma and you're so nice, but no one wants to fucking drink with you.
Cheers.
And the funny thing about it was that I realized that drinking, in a lot of ways, is something that you have to pay attention to biologically. Alcohol affects the brain in a way that it inhibits you. It slows you down. So for somebody who is a Ferrari, I'm like getting a good set of treads, a better suspension, getting turned into a rallycross car like a Subaru when I drink. I can handle more roads, I can do it more wildly, and I don't have to pay as hard of a price when I fuck up because I can just correct myself. And it's not hard for me to do because I'm not as rigid. When I think about the context that we live in America, I have had to see people praying to their gods, begging for life, begging for kinship, begging someone to show up to save them. And I've heard this among my black friends, but they would never ask me. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about what I could offer them. Instead, it was this idea that had been handed to them from their parents and their parents and their parents in the exact same way that I had been handed the information about the rules that I so lovingly obeyed about how I would survive best. But because my parents were so vicious in their divorce from each other, my mom and my dad, they decided that they would pit me and my sister against each other for loyalty so that they could play cat and mouse with each other as they broke up over 2 years. So my sister and I were constantly taught to betray each other, constantly taught to sell each other out for a Transformer, a G.I. Joe, a Barbie doll, some cookies, whatever it was. We were told basically that if we had information that would give the other parent an edge up, we should give it up. And that if they found out that one of us was holding and the other one told on us, then that one would be praised and the other one would be punished. Now, my mom is the kind of person, and I'm gonna pretty much leave it at this, who, when I, as an autistic person, didn't like the texture of green beans as a child. I mean, I'll fucking eat the shit out of them now, don't get me wrong. But I would just swallow them whole because I didn't like chewing them. I didn't like how stringy they would be sometimes, and it'd just be, if there was pulp, like oranges, fuck, man. As a kid, I was just like, is it still in my mouth after 3 hours? Because it just doesn't dissolve. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to just swallow this? All the juice is gone, and now it just tastes like orange, like bubble gum, but it's like spongy, I don't know. And yes, the answer is yes, I was supposed to swallow it. Well, it wasn't like corn, where it was the same kind of texture, but it actually did disintegrate in your mouth as you chewed it. I would just wolf them down and be like, okay, you know what? I have to stay at the table until I'm done, or else I can't go do whatever. Okay, just power through it. Just power through it. Those are some good green beans. And I wound up walking up the stairs one night, and because of the nature of, if you've ever tried to do shots of green beans, you would find out very quickly that you would probably projectile vomit them onto a wall or something like that. And my mom was like, cool, this is the last time this is ever going to happen. You need to finish your dinner. And told me that she would go use the bathroom like she'd hoped after dinner, and that when she came back, my food better be cleaned up. And I did what she commanded, and I didn't swallow them whole because I knew that if I did it twice, that was going to be game over. And that is the kind of context I was raised with. So I said that I would talk about Black people in America, and what I saw from that personal interaction over and over and over again as I learned that the rules could move. Not that they even existed or didn't exist. They could just move away for a while and then come back. The things that you were allowed to convince other people to do. You would wind up being able to train someone. Now, Jeremy is an incredible multi-instrumentalist. Spent years practicing, and not just practicing, living, pushing, providing, creating. The mentality of art was something that I was told that I was never allowed to do. I was not allowed to play instruments, I was not allowed to dance, I was not allowed to create art because that was a girl's thing, and I was not allowed to touch it. And that is not as common anymore, but I was right on the cusp as an 80s kid. And what came from that kind of behavior of training children to do what you want so badly that you need because you do not have the infrastructure to go get it, someone who is so powerless for you to push that on them because it is so facile, so easy to do, it seems like it's the right thing to do. So it seems like the correct thing that you would do because it's working out. And this happens to be, as I have studied it, the exact reason why pedophiles keep doing what they do. It just seems too good to be true. It doesn't make any sense otherwise. And you see someone do something so horrible, and you go, how could you possibly do this? And they only know the months leading up to it. But they don't think about it all at once. They don't think about the stages of the decisions that they made. It's just something that was there and they could do it and the rules moved. And this is how many white people in America treat black people in America. And that's not to say all of them or all of them. Specifically though, this happens worldwide. And this is also part of the dilemma, is that within the black community, you have many people who think that they are victims, isolated, alone, and that doesn't happen to anybody else. And this benefits white privilege. It benefits white people who would take advantage. It benefits parents who would take advantage to leave a child thinking it never happens to anyone else. It's only happening to them, and it's only because of that they are not good enough. Because otherwise they would figure out that context key, they would solve it, they would be good enough, and they would get out. Now, everybody here has had this happen to them. Every single one of you has had someone show you a door that you could go through if only you were good enough, if only you could figure out the right solution. It doesn't really matter because you've all experienced it in different ways. And if we were talking about that specific thing, every single one of you would have a different story about it. This happens to be my story about it. But the lesson that my mom taught me was to listen to other people tell theirs. What I learned from being such a good kid was that people would give me anything I wanted. I think it's time for a drink. That's all right. We literally found that in a neighbor's yard. It's a great table, but they didn't want it anymore, so, you know. Oh, no, it's totally fine, man. Like, kind of glad somebody finally did it. So now maybe you guys understand better why I've been waiting for this moment since I was 7, because that's when my education started. And the reason I'm talking about this is because being somebody who was really nice to people, I didn't want anything. I didn't need anything. I could just have happiness with a couple of Transformers, you know, get on a swing set. That stuff delighted me. It was just absolutely terrific. And that's one of the benefits of being autistic, is that sometimes you get really lucky and your special interest is super cheap, like beer. I don't have a special interest in beer. I'm not an alcoholic. No.
Debatable.
I'll talk to you later. Over whiskeys. But I figured it out that on my 3rd read through of the Bible, Jesus was grappling with something that he understood. John the Baptist was a hobo. And I know that he was a hobo because I have been homeless and I have considered doing some bad things in order to eat, find a place to live, get money. Do what you gotta do in order to survive, that's fine. But John the Baptist in the Bible is known for cleansing people, cleansing their souls. This idea of what our brains are doing, our imagination, that is the soul. Our ability to manifest things like you out onto the world with whatever it is that we dream, whatever it is that we create. And that is what they always thought was the soul. That was your life, your essence, out in the world to do whatever it is. And that created a ripple effect across time as we have lived. And I want to give gratitude to all the people who died to get us here without any sort of note, because they must have, or else we would not be here, simply put. So this is Brian. He didn't exist because his 44444 mothers just decided to fucking do the wrong thing. And, you know, this other person over here who didn't get a name, no, I'm saying that we don't have a fathomable way to do an articulated math count on all the people who don't exist because of different decisions. And it doesn't really matter. That is a test of our own imaginations to create something that we could perceive that would delight us because we need it, we want it, we thrive on it. The human brain has developed the capacity to have fun when it does not exist in survival mode. And it is a very, very, very caustic person upon all the other lives around them who thrives in the depths of that position. To be in survival mode all the time, like you are when you are at war. To be competitive at such a level that you are willing to decimate those around you in order to succeed at the thing that you propose, that is colonization. And so we have this idea that Jesus was watching this man down by the river outside of town because he didn't actually want to go work with his dad. And we know why, because it wasn't his dad. And that is a simple enough phrase for you to derive the context of what it was that must have been, because back then, rape was a capital offense for the woman to have committed. So if Mary had been pregnant, they would have needed to leave town so that that town didn't fucking kill her if they found out it wasn't Joseph's. So a move like that in the middle of a pregnancy back then was a death sentence. Infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate was so high that to not have the people around you who knew you and how you were behaving at the time would almost guarantee that the woman or the child was going to die. It was a huge risk to take. Why take it? Why take it? Because of some predictive, imaginative thing? No. We invented Baba Yaga. We invented the boogeyman. We invented those things to scare children into staying close to home when there were no other people who could watch them. So Jesus watched John the Baptist use his imagination to figure out how to live. This man stood by the river when he had been cast out of town, which is what the Bible says. He stood there waiting for the women to come and wash the clothes. And you're talking about a time when people did not take baths. And this guy was like, hey, I'm going to clean you up. I'm going to get your soul clean. And they'd go take a dunk and come out and be like, man, that feels great. Oh, we should do that all the time. And he's like, yeah, I smell bad. But yeah, I will totally put your head under and I will wash away your sins. And the dilemma behind something like that is like, how often do you need a washing? You know, is it like your car, like you go once a month and you just get cleaned out, come back, you know, do your thing, whatever. And what Jesus found was that John the Baptist was a pariah. He had been told to get the fuck out of town or they would fucking just stone him to death, whatever, you know, just something less brutal than what they were doing to women. And these women would come back with gold. They would pay him for dunking their heads in water. And Jesus, because he had been so jaded, was looking at this guy get free fucking money. And he was just trying to wrap his head around it because up to that point, he'd been following the rules. The guys in charge of the government were the religious figureheads. They were the ones that you went and talked to about laws and everything else you needed to do, which is very, very similar to how it still exists in many of the countries in that region today. You know, if it's not broke, keep doing it. Well, he's watching this guy be nice to people. Just being nice to these women in a society where women were not respected very well. And again, to many of those countries are not today in the same kind of way. So he tried to wrap his head around it, and by the time he died, he still didn't get it. That you can be as nice to people as you possibly can. And because a cognitive dissonance arises out of what it is to get something so valuable as validation that you would trick yourself into doing anything you can to pay that back. And that is why churches today are tax-free, because they are not guaranteed to get back on being so nice to people once a week. Think about it. You're filthy with your decisions. You've done it all wrong. You are not good enough. But there's a place you can go every Sunday that you are accepted. You can do it. That is their brand to let you in. Let you come on in. And because people can't be like, oh, hey, you know what? I've got a big orange tree in the backyard. In fact, I got 40 of them. I'm just going to bring you oranges. I love how nice you are. Have some oranges. Those are what really delight me. I grew a bunch of oranges. Great. No. The thing we have in common globally is money, is resources, food, is whatever commodity that we can trade with each other that is most notable and identifiable as a valuable asset and resource. So these people's cognitive dissonance occurs, sets in, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, here comes the collection plate. God doesn't need money, but they tell you he does. They tell you that God needs money. So do politicians, and that is also not true because we fucking pay them. It's literally like us paying them more to just do the thing that they're hired to do. Well, Jesus watched this happen, and he didn't understand how to do it, but he just traveled around with a bunch of other people, and he's like, I'm going to make you fishers of men because I figured out social engineering. I figured out you can just be nice to people, and they just fucking get everything taken care of. John the Baptist fucking did it. He just fucking gave people baths. All he did was go around giving people baths. And today we now know what it's spiraled into. And the dilemma with it is that what we see is that because of the context around rules moving, you wind up in this position where you have a whole bunch of people who identify themselves as being really good people at home. I'm nice to my wife, I'm nice to my kids, I'm nice to my dog. I take him out and I walk him, and he's just so excited every time I have a bone. Just whip that shit out there, and he's gonna fucking go get it, and he just cannot fucking stop smiling at me. And we recognize that as a positive interaction. But then you travel out, and you go out into the world where there might be danger, and because there was no infrastructure designed like what I had to build for myself, people are not told that when you come across other people, you have a variety of interactions you might have. Here's a booklet on how to do it, and you'll be able to figure it out based on memorizing all of these things. People are like, dude, I don't have time to read all this. I'm just gonna wing it. Yeah, and that's problematic because let's say you come across somebody who's been having a real bad day. That happens to cops all the time. That's why they have to shoot people, because those people are just having the worst day and they just need to just get it over with. I can make dark jokes like that nobody's gonna laugh at because we all know exactly how grave that is. There's no funniness to it, but what I just did to you is surprise you with something that you all realize doesn't have a threat to you. Now, if we had a really dark-skinned person here who'd been harassed by cops more and more and more, they might get up and walk out and be like, I'm tired of this shit, I don't need this fucking shit. I don't need you to fucking remind me of the terror that I have to fucking deal with all the time because you don't even fucking know. And the dilemma is that I do, because that person who harassed me was my mom. Was somebody who kept changing the fucking rules based on how her day was going and made me fit into all these different fucking shapes in order to fucking make her happy. And I figured out what that is. That it's Stockholm Syndrome. That you basically tell someone that they are your pet, or that you are their pet, and that when you have a cat, when you have a dog, yeah, there's a bone, and you throw it, and they know the game. It's a good game for them. It's not going to hurt them, and they can just run around, and they can feel exhilarated, and there's a lot of adrenaline, and all of those things biologically feel great. But then when you come across black-white interactions in America, when you come across Palestinian-Israeli interactions in Israel, when you come across Taiwanese-Chinese interactions in China, when you come across any sort of prejudice or bias, you wind up seeing someone who is afraid of the other person. And so what they want to do is they want to get that person to behave. They want them to behave by the rules that they know. And they want to be sure of it so they can just let go of that fear. They can let go of how scared they are that this might go wrong, even though there may be no threat whatsoever. But because of some prejudicial marker that they have been told, taught, seen, developed, however it comes to pass that they have acquired it, they insist that this other person behave. Yes?
Could you define Stockholm Syndrome for the people here, if you don't mind?
Stockholm Syndrome is undefined. And yes, I can define it. That wasn't supposed to be a joke. I think we're probably going to be done by the time I finish the beer, so big gulp.
First, it's an event, right?
Say that again?
First, it's an event. It's Stockholm Syndrome.
I'm familiar with Stockholm Syndrome,
So,
but I want to hear the definition.
Stockholm Syndrome is actually a phrase for an event that happened where in Stockholm, some terrorists, or no, not terrorists, I think bank robbers, captured several people. And essentially what came to pass was that the Stockholm police were very much like American police at the time, like what we have now. And in their untrained state, they basically were like, we're going to storm in and we're going to save the hostages, because there were hostages within the bank. And the bank robbers beat them at their own game, outwitted them, and the raid went poorly. And they were like, we did just talk to these guys. No, wait, hang on. You know what? We can't trust ourselves because this doesn't make any sense. Okay, hostages, didn't we just tell them that we would kill you if they came in? Yeah. And they came in anyway. So like right now you guys are totally dead. But we really don't want to kill you. We're just here for the fucking month. Like we're not here to fucking murder people. Like just you're fine. But like work with us here. Like what are we supposed to do? You guys have any ideas? Okay, you'll work with us to survive? Because fuck these guys? Yeah, okay, fuck these guys. Yeah, let's fuck these guys. And they fucked them. So the hostages started working with the bank robbers and fucked over the police until the police had to acquiesce to the hostages, up to the point where they were like, we'll negotiate for stuff, we'll give you stuff if you release hostages. And the hostages were like, fuck you, we're not going with them. We'll stay here. Give them what they want. We're safer behind these guys because we're not in between you two. So just sort your shit out and we'll be in the back room. We have snacks. And so it became known as this thing, like, why would you work with bad guys? Why would you work with the bad guys when it's so clear that the good guys are trying to save you? And the benefit of it is the same thing as a dog who might see its owner get real hostile towards a black person when they're a white person and go and they don't say anything, they don't do anything, but that dog is like, oh shit's about to go down. Oh, fuck you, I'm gonna fuck you up. This, yeah, you're not calm? Okay, yeah, let's go. And the dog doesn't know anything else, but it's the exact same thing that white people deal with, is if they see some other white person getting really aggressive, they'll be like, Brad, should we chill out? No? Yeah, let's go. Oh. And a lot of times, especially with police, that's the dilemma that you see, is that one of them gets really escalated and the other one's like, ride or die, bro, let's go. Oh man, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I got your back. And that becomes the only thing that matters, because companionship is such an intrinsic thing to the biology of humans. I mean, you guys are hugging on each other right now. For what reason?
Comfort.
Exactly. It's comfort. So that dog that's losing its shit feels more comfortable losing its shit than it does being like, Brad, you need to chill the fuck out. You're overreacting. They're fine. I got you. De-escalate. And the dilemma with that is that the difference between comfort and fun is that you wind up in this position of thinking things that are supposed to be easy are what is natural. What Stockholm Syndrome is, specifically, is when you turn another person into a pet. And they don't have the autonomy to become their own selves. What Jeremy does with his art is canceled, forbidden. That thinking is forsaken by the pet. They're not allowed to act out. So we had not had a connection until I wound up getting into borderline personality forums and trying to help other people beat it after I did. And I have a formal diagnosis for having beaten borderline personality disorder. I'm one of the only people in the entire world who beat it before they were 50. And I did it when I was 33. And what it means is restamping your personality upon the world. Taking what you were taught to be, all the rules that you were taught to have, and just fucking axing and burning all of it and rebuilding the entire thing from scratch, how it works best for you, hopefully. And in a lot of ways, you wind up rebuilding yourself with all the other biases that people love giving. And in my case, the reason I was happy to present to you guys tonight specifically is because I rebuilt myself into this. Summoning you all here to enjoy yourselves. Because at the end of it, if I'm right, if there was no magic in John the Baptist, if there was no magic in Muhammad, if there was no magic in any of the gurus from the other side of the world, what it means is that there is no hell to go to. You can't be wrong. Whatever it is that you do, you will live and die, and the world will go on. And you could be a terrible fucking human being, you could be a saint, you could be whatever the fuck it is in between, and most likely, bell curve that shit, you will be something right up in there with everybody else. Doing something somebody did in the 1800s or 1700s or whatever the fuck else it is, trying to couple up with somebody just in the same ways, trying to enjoy the festivities, trying to enjoy the music, enjoy the art, all that kind of stuff. But the only real difference is whether or not you create art, whether or not you play music, whether or not you make jokes, whether or not you delight other people or crush them in your art. And this is the dilemma that Black people in America have, is that there are so many people who decided as an art form to punish them for being Black because prejudice is allowed to just fucking exist. And they don't have the infrastructure to tell them that they will die if they touch another person. Or that if they create these moments, then they will be ripped apart. That there will be something so cataclysmic that will come to them. There is no God for them to answer to because the rules and context shift. God is not there to tell them no. And so, what Black people in America have had to do, just as the Taiwanese, just as the Ethiopians have to deal with Eritreans have been beset upon by Ethiopians for generations. So if you were an Eritrean in Ethiopia, you gotta figure that fucking shit out because they will fucking butcher you. They'll fuck you the fuck up. Prejudicially. And it's a weird interplay. But what it comes down to is that in order to survive that, you must deal with those people constantly trying to make you their fucking pet. Constantly trying to make you into what it is that they can deal with so they don't have to worry about you being a risk to them because they have stupid fucking ideals of what it is that it has to be. And that is what bias is that you are dead set and unwilling to shift. But Jesus figured out something. And I am saying this, ripping away the magic that came for the last 2,000 years that we have been sold on. What he figured out was that if you are just really nice to people, they'll bend their rules. They'll move them out of the way. They'll figure it out. And the thing that I wound up getting called, what we had talked about, Baba Yaga, a ghost, someone who could go anywhere. Came across a couple of Ukrainian mafia guys in San Francisco after an all-night party and got a chance to bum a cigarette off with them. And because of the way I presented myself, I wound up having to back way the fuck up and convince them that I was not as much of a threat as I sometimes present to be by being silly. Social engineering gives you the capacity to analyze people who are in drive and maneuver around them because you know they can't hit neutral or reverse. Simply put. But if you were someone's pet, they put you in drive. And this is the dilemma. And so this is the stature that black people have to deal with, is that there are constantly white people who are trying to put them into drive, neutral, or reverse so that they can navigate around them without having to do anything except be in drive. They don't stop themselves. They don't stop themselves from implicating, from pushing, from mentioning, from doing small gestures to make the other person know what they need to do in order to be able to make this person more comfortable, because they are not given the knowledge that the infrastructure was all just fucking made up with imagination anyway. There's just millions and millions and millions, billions and billions of people who died before. Like, if you consider the number of people who've lived and died, it's up there. It's a lot of numbers. And they all just made it up. They just told somebody else, this is how it is, and this is what I'm doing to you. This is why I've waited since I was 7, because I wanted people to listen. The pain that I had, to the context problems that I had. And I am not just a lightning rod for trouble. I'm a lightning rod for people who want it better and fight for it. People who have a little bit of courage. And when you strip away the context of hell, when you strip away that, you're talking about being like an atheist, right? Like maybe agnostic. But the premise is, if there's no gods, if we all just made them all up, then why are we not invited to more atheist parties? Because if there's only one shot at it, I mean, like, you'd be like, no. My place next weekend? Yeah, because no gods? Yeah, we're fucked. Yeah, let's just keep going. All right. Let me tell you about all the context I create. The infrastructure I go, oh my God, this week, chef's kiss good, let's go. Well, if you consider this issue, one of the most prescient things about the black community within America, especially the ones who are set up on, the ones who recognize it, the ones who share in it. And I'm not talking about Kanye West, because he doesn't fucking get it. He didn't spend enough time at house parties, and now he's wearing, I mean, you know, this is like not news, but he's wearing all Lives Matter shirts with Candace Owens, and she too is one of those people. And what I figured it out is that you're talking about people who are taught to make art, they're taught to press themselves into the world, but they're not taught that it is still just fucking made up. Like they're doing the thing to make it all up, not realizing that, oh yeah, like the entire system that I'm making it all up in was all made up. Okay, cool, yeah, okay, cool, yeah. But this thing harkens back, all the way back, to when the first, I guess, almost famous person, like someone who was transcontinental over the course of 2,000 years, as colonizers moved around the world, as missionaries pushed this idea. The idea was be nice to other people. We can all agree on that, right? Like Jesus was like, hey man, like my bag is just fucking be nice to people. Just like whatever you gotta do. But he hit upon something that he didn't even realize because he didn't have the science to back it up. And now we live in another renaissance. There's digital information coming out of fucking ears, watching everything happening in real time now, watching everybody make discoveries in real time, watching it come out as close as possible. Now, 2,000 years ago, if Candace Owens and Kanye West wore All Lives Matter shirts, we'd hear about it in months, years, when somebody decided to move between villages. Like, maybe once upon a time this thing happened, cool. And we remember those myths as kids. The one kid who took a shit somewhere that he shouldn't have. Oh my God, that's fucking incredible. Can't believe he did that. Oh, it was actually urban legend. We find out when we're older. And what he hit upon was this, that having the freedom of fun tricks your brain into not thinking that your life is on the line. And what I figured out from watching the politics of the last couple of years between the Democrats, the Republicans here, and the exact same thing, because we all got attacked by the Russians so they could clear the way for Ukraine. They launched psychological warfare of unfun on everyone. They just hit everyone because they had the technology to do it. And it was just like, do you also want to hit all these IPs? Click yes, like spammed that button. And that may sound like a conspiracy theory, but the thing is that we have this updated presence in the digital space of seeing what people have done. So the dilemma is that your brain takes damage from stress. And a research study recently showed that even the stress of being proven wrong, like when somebody slaps their Mensa acceptance letter on the table, can physically hurt you. It can actually physically hurt you to be wrong. So when you talk about being married, 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 and you have fights with your spouse, it hurts to fight to keep it together more than it hurts to just slap each other around. We know this from seeing how people have let the pandemic play out. People hurt each other. The toxicity online, I became incredibly toxic. I was very good at it. Bullied the shit out of some fucking people. But they deserved it. And this is my last drink. So if you would, this is going to be how I'm going to wind it up. Please, if you have a drink, drink with me. It was a bit too big.
Cheers.
What I learned, and the reason why I brought you here, is because of this. Fun heals your brain of the damage of stress. Having too much stressful damage to your brain causes you to become conservative, biologically. When you are terrified that you cannot make pets of the people who will not behave, that you're biased against, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, black or white, Jewish, Russian, African. I mean, I say African like it's not some fucking enormous fucking cavalcade of people. I'm on Nigerian Twitter. That shit's fucking dope as fuck. But I learned about the histories of Africa. I learned about the interplays between Togo and Tigray and Ethiopia and Eritrea and Egypt, going further south to Congo, and how they were beset upon by colonizers, how they were fucked up because those people saw them as pets. And what I realized is that a guy like Columbus would have been a mass shooter today. He was no good at having fun. He did not understand how to build the infrastructure for himself or how to utilize infrastructure around him to have fun and enjoy himself. And so his cruelty manifested itself in order to create fun out of dominating other people. And that didn't matter because it didn't matter who they were. He went to the crown. He dominated the crown by getting the money he needed in order to travel. He dominated his sailors. He got to the new shores. He dominated those people. And he was a good guy. He believed he was good and just going to heaven because he was doing the thing that was super easy for him because he had the tools to just fucking do it. Not realizing that it was easy to do because people didn't have defenses against an asshole like him.
He was a patsy.
To some degree, yes. But the thing about it is that also relates to our mass shooter problem. And that's why it doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. Because those guys don't know how to have fun in any meaningful way to heal themselves. And that is also what church does. And this is the tie back. That church sells these people enough fun to let them survive the week while their lives are stable. And they sold that to black people when black people stopped being slaves, because they knew a little bit of stability, a little bit of fun every week they were allowed to have, for the right reasons and the way that they knew how to behave, would keep them from seeking vengeance for all the fucking terrible shit that they started telling each other happened. And there's a saying on black social media that it's a good fucking thing that they want equality and not revenge. Well, I say fucking get some revenge. I mean, that means I might die, but you know what? I had a good one. And to be quite honest, the dilemma is that black culture has now manifested this grindhouse of fun. It's way fucking more fun than white culture. Oh my God, it's so fucking amazing. And the dances, the songs, the philosophy, even the churches, I mean, just whatever it is that they do more fun because that is the only way that their bodies allow them to survive. Or say they start sabotaging themselves. They start cannibalizing their own thoughts. And you have that happening. You have what is known colloquially as hoteps, black supremacists, black guys who do exactly what terrible white guys do, just the same. And the dilemma is that it is what happens to you when you are not having a good enough life to tell you that you are not in survival mode anymore. And I became incredibly toxic when I didn't think I would survive my mom. I learned how to be a sneak. I learned how to be a thief. I learned how to be a liar. I learned how to be a cheat. I learned all the things that she had told me that I would go to hell for, and I had to, so that I could cheat her out of the abuse that she was going to give me. And that is exactly what black culture has done. They have had to learn how to cheat white people out of it. And that is why when you go on message boards or you go on tweets and you get into the comment section and they're like, hey, like, what do you think about this? And you go and you're like, oh yeah, like me too. They're like, this isn't for you. This isn't for you. You need to shut the fuck up. Well, that's why. Because their fun is at risk if you step in as a white person. Their infrastructure for enjoying it as much as they need it is at risk because they don't know what kind of fucking dynamite stick you happen to have in your back pocket. And I earned the nickname of Heart because I spent a year shutting the fuck up. I only liked other people's comments. I didn't retweet, I didn't subtweet, I didn't comment, I didn't do shit. I just listened. And I infamously am apparently the only white person who was able to shut the fuck up for that long. And that was only a year. I couldn't take it after that. I had to give up the ghost. I hope that's not a terrible KKK pun. It is now. No, but like, that's the issue, is that you put their fun at risk. And that's why Kanye doesn't get it. That's why Candace doesn't get it, because they're not fun enough. Kanye has been struggling to have a party, and everybody's like, I'll buy your shoes. But I'm gonna go to the party in your shoes. You're not coming. And he doesn't go. He doesn't go to the parties. He doesn't party with anybody. He doesn't hang out. Like, you look at Pitbull. Pitbull is a 65-year-old man in a 40-year-old's body. Okay? He has lived. And he is invited to every fucking party. And he will go. You're like, hey, Mr. Worldwide, I'm in California right now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm in Australia. He's like, cool, I'll be there. You're like, when do you think he'll show up? He's like, 3:05. That's a middle finger. I deserve that. So this is the thing, is that it's, I don't have to protract this out any further than this. We can see it displayed in an entire culture that is trying to survive shitty fucking stuff happening to them on a regular ass basis. And that is also the dilemma with dealing with like somebody like Trump, is that his own base has shitty stuff happening to them. And he goes, oh, it's all these fucking guys over, it's not me. And they happen to believe it because they do not keep up with the tools that exist in this age to actually go, yeah, actually, no, it is him. He literally was told it is an airborne virus, and he went, can I put a flyer behind it so that people vote for me? No, not that. Oh my God. The point of all this is that people have been trying to figure out how to have fun in order to survive as much as possible. And that is why I brought you all here. I wanted you guys to have a fucking kick-ass
Thank
time.
you.
I wanted you guys to drink with me in order to slow yourselves down so you can go wide on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I recorded this, the reason I want to put this out there is because that is what Mensa should be. We should be. You can all clap if you want.
Everyone. Thank
It's not just a place for people to go
you. Show off.
show. No, I'm showing off right
Mm.
now. But it's not just a place for really smart people.
It's a sharing of ideals.
It's a place for people to engineer better ways to do things, to build the infrastructure, to create the imagination.
What does Mensa mean? Mensa means table.
It's like it's a trap. It's not a. No.
Okay, it's supposed to mean table.
It's a triple entendre, which
I
is
know.
it's a table with 3 legs. It's a triple
Yeah.
entendre, and it's a bunch of other things.
Uh-huh.
But
Okay.
the thing is that those people show up for each other, and they show up for each other as loyally as church members are.
Mm.
They come every week. They go to lunch every week. They do that kind of stuff. But it's like you're talking about an organization that could cover much, much more than that.
Sure.
And in the exact same vein of their time, they do as much as everybody else does. And so it's not just about them. This is about them because this is, me hosting it on behalf of them so that I can try to convince other people to do it. But I'm hoping that because of their speed, they see the veracity of it. They see that this is logical in the context he has been created, forged, and smithed for them to use. That they can then unlock that door. But I don't want it beholden to somebody on that level. I want this in everyone's hands. Because if I'm right, that means that we could go to fucking Mars with the understanding that if we have a fucking great ass time together, we'll figure out whatever the fuck we need to figure out.
There'll be cocktails.
There'll be cocktails. If you don't want cocktails, you don't have to have cocktails. But you need to know what it does to other people who do need it. And you need to be supportive of them in the things that they need in order to make it so that it's not a problem.
Thank you.
And that is exactly what we must do for Black people in this country as well.
Yes.
Every single prejudicial group of people can be penetrated by having a great fucking time with them, and they will learn how to go wide.
Again.
So if you wind up in that position where things hurt a bit much, it is going to be painstaking for you to admit you are wrong and say that you should have more fun. Whatever your life has ground you down into, you are going to wind up in a position where you are going to say, man, you know what, I really want to go out tonight. I really should, and my friends are going to be there, but like, it's just, I'm so tired. Go, rally, fucking do it. Have the courage to stand up and fucking go tell some dumb jokes. Go have a drink. Go have a smoke. Go have a laugh on their behalf. Because what it is going to do for you is heal your brain the extra amount that you need that won't cost as much for a little bit of extra effort. We must show up for each other. We must build events for each other. We must build moments for each other. And we must do it better than the church. We must do it better than the synagogue or the chapel or any of the other places of worship, because that is what they do. They do exactly that. Cosmopolitanism, where you get to meet other people. Philosophy, where you get to get new ideas. Art, where you get to express yourself. You sit in a pew and you sing off tune, and you did great today. Really like that you sang that holy gospel the way you did. But the reality of it is that it's not enough when times get hard. That is the lesson. That when things get really difficult, you must push harder for fun, and it will hurt, but it will pay off.
And that's what Salon is about.
That's what tonight is about.
Thank you.
And that is why I want to thank all of you for
Thank
coming.
you. Perfect. Thank you.
Work every second.
All right. Can I make one criticism?
Sure.
One quick criticism.